Well, I often think about this gospel story that we've just had as Jesus' busy day. Because in fact, he has a field day and he leaves behind him an absolute trail of wreckage. Only it's kind of good wreckage. It's the wreckage of broken rules, indeed rules that needed to be broken. More importantly, he leaves behind a legacy of restored human beings. One of the things I love about the gospel is that Jesus doesn't just see people, he doesn't see people as a crowd, kind of an amorphous mass. He sees individuals. He sees you and he sees me. Come and see someone who told me everything I ever did, says the Samaritan woman to her neighbours, astonished to have been truly seen for the first time in her life. He'll hear the voice that cries out, "Son of David, have pity on me," when others tell the man to keep quiet. He's drawn to the children who are drawn to him when the disciples would shoo them away. And today, he will notice and pull to centre stage Matthew, the hated tax collector, other tax collectors and sinners, and the poor woman with the issue of blood, and the synagogue leader's daughter, whom even to touch would bring impurity according to the law. All of these people, he sees and he knows them. And he sees and he knows us. This past week, I've been reading Pope Leo's encyclical Magnificat Humanitas. It's an appeal to the world that as AI advances and has such an influence in so many areas of life and for almost every person on the planet, we shouldn't lose sight of that sacred human dignity which Jesus saw and sees so clearly. We're not just a mass, not just data to be monetized or exploited. And the Pope explores this by means of two Old Testament models. The first is the Tower of Babel, that monument to human hubris, which he interprets as an attempt to transcend human limitations, just as technology seems to be offering us seemingly endless possibilities of being more than we are now. But the second is the story of Nehemiah working with the people returning from exile to rebuild the world's walls of Jerusalem, with everyone having a part to play. Now, Leo is saying that if ownership of AI lies mostly in the hands not of elected governments, but of a tiny number of rich and powerful individuals, then the church needs to raise her voice, our voice, to remind governments to make sure that the sacredness of the human doesn't get forgotten. So are we, he asks, building a Tower of Babel, or are we together building the city of God, what he calls a civilization of love? And he says we can't leave it to those who handle data and manage algorithms to provide the moral vision that we need, and above all, a sense of what it means to be human. Magnificently human, like the encyclical says. And that with all the wonder and the imperfections that go with being human. Because, he says, it's at the point of our imperfections, in our places where we meet our limitations and our failures, that our most transcendent human qualities are often revealed. In our courage, our compassion, our ability to reach out to each other in love. Now, the Pope is, of course, at pains to say that his letter is not anti-progress or anti-technology. Indeed, some of the AI tech bros have been part of producing the letter. And in fact, we've had a great example of the benefits of AI just this week in groundbreaking research on new vaccines, with all kinds of good possibilities for the future. But rather, this is an appeal to those who are shaping this technology, and that includes all of us who use it, to ensure that no one gets left behind, no one excluded, no one regarded as somehow not worth noticing, kind of collateral damage in the advance of tech. And he spells out the risks and the dangers that he sees for children and young people, for AI being used in warfare in ways that can distance those using it from the reality that they are killing people, for abuse and human trafficking, where people can be bought and sold across the world like packages, for the poorest of the poor mining the rare earth minerals needed to power these hungry systems. Just as his predecessor, Leo XIII, did with his encyclical Rerum Novarum of New Things at the end of the 19th century, appealing for human dignity in an age of industrialization and capitalism, so now this Leo, he invites us to join in this venture of using AI not to build a Tower of Babel, but intentionally, creatively, to build God's civilization of love. So, no one left behind, no one excluded, no one abused, which takes us back to our gospel and our busy Jesus, who is himself the ultimate affirmation of our human dignity. Because the Word didn't become an idea or a law or a system. The Word became flesh, shared with yours and mine, imperfect and beautiful. And here he is at work, flesh touching flesh, restoring the hated Matthew, dining with Matthew's inappropriate friends, noticing the poor woman with her hemorrhage, feeling her presence and the touch of her hand in the crowd, and seeing her and seeing what she needs and healing her with a word. And as if that's not enough, back at the synagogue leader's house, there's a daughter to bring back to life, a dead female as untouchable as the woman with her hemorrhage, and he takes her hand and raises her up. This is how God works, with and through people who don't fit our systems, our laws, our rules, our algorithms. This is how God works with us. Any of us can feel lost in the crowd, unnoticed. But this is the God, Jesus is God, who sees you just as you find yourself today. Not one of a crowd, not an item of data, but magnificently human you. Amen.